Hey, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a really big idea that's shaking up education as we know it, student agency. In a world that's changing so fast, the big question is, how do we get students ready to actually take the wheel on their own learning? Let's get into it. So, this whole conversation about student agency just got a massive jolt of electricity with the arrival of AI tools. I mean, all of a sudden, the old way of doing school is facing this huge test. And it's making us ask some really fundamental questions about what it even means to learn.
And really, this is the question, isn't it? When a student can just type a prompt and get a perfect answer, we run this huge risk of what you might call passive compliance. They can do the assignment, they can get the grade, but the real learning, the struggle, the wrestling with an idea, that gets completely skipped over.
So you've got two roads a student can go down here. On one side, you have compliance, just asking the AI, hey, give me the answer. But on the other, you have what one teacher brilliantly called the rogue learner path. These are the students who argue with the AI. They use it as a sparring partner, not an answer key. And that right there, that's the difference between just complying and having real agency.
Okay, so if that passive compliance is the problem we're trying to solve, then student agency is the answer. But let's be real. What are we actually talking about when we say that? It's so much more than just a buzzword. Let's get a really solid definition.
Okay, listen closely to how this is framed. Agency isn't just having the ability to do something. It's the propensity. It's that built-in drive to take action. It's the belief that you can actually change your situation. Think about it. It's the complete opposite of feeling helpless. People with agency don't just wait for things to happen to them, they make things happen.
And it's super important we bust some myths here about what agency is not. It is not chaos. It's not students just doing whatever they feel like. And it is absolutely not less work for teachers. Actually, it's the opposite. It takes a ton of intentional design to create this kind of structured freedom where students and teachers are partners in learning.
So, how do we actually build this? Well, research points to 4 key pillars that have to be there. For agency to really take root, a student needs to feel their identity is valued. They need a sense of belonging, that they're seen and cared for. They need mastery, which means having real choice in their learning. And finally, they need efficacy, that deep down knowledge that what they do actually makes a difference. This all sounds fantastic for students, right? But what does it mean for the person at the front of the room? Well, building agency means a pretty fundamental shift in the teacher's role. You're moving from being the director on the stage to being the guide on the side. Let's look at what that really means.
I love this quote because it just nails it. Instead of being the one person with all the knowledge, the teacher becomes a facilitator, a coach, a resource collector. Your job is to set up the conditions for discovery, point students to cool resources, and then step back and follow their lead as they start to ask questions and build their own understanding.
So, how do you actually do that day to day? Well, here's a really powerful, simple loop, the ECR cycle. First, you envision together. Before you start something, you talk with students about what success looks like. Then, as they're working, you coach them with specific feedback right in the moment. And finally, when it's over, you reflect together on how it all went. It's a simple little cycle, but it's a powerhouse for building that self-regulation.
Okay, so we've got the why, we've got the what. Now for the fun part. What are some real concrete tools you could literally use in a classroom tomorrow to start building that sense of student ownership? Let's start with a total classic, the choice board. This thing is so simple, but wow, is it powerful. Instead of giving one single assignment to every student, you give them a menu of options. Maybe they have to do one thing from the writing column and one from the presenting column, but they get to choose whether that's an essay or a podcast. That one little shift gives them control and makes the whole thing feel more relevant to them.
Here's another fantastic one, micro-tracking. You can think of it as a personalized to-do list for learning. At the top, you have the big goal. Then, the student lists the small steps they're going to take to get there. It makes the whole learning process visible. And that simple, satisfying act of checking something off a list, it builds momentum and proves to them, step by step, that they are in control of their own progress.
Now, these individual tools are great. They really are. But they become truly transformative when they're part of a whole classroom culture, an entire ecosystem that is built from the ground up to be student-driven.
Just picture it for a second. This tale of 2 classrooms. In the teacher-driven room, the teacher's up front, knowledge is flowing one way, and everyone's focused on getting the right answer. But in the student-driven room, the whole vibe is different. Discs are probably in clusters, the teacher is moving around, facilitating, And the goal isn't just about the answer, it's about the journey. It's about students working together to figure things out.
Look, a high-agency classroom doesn't happen by accident. It's designed. It's built on a foundation of collaboration. The rules are something the whole community agrees on. The engine that drives it all is student-led projects and genuine curiosity. And the secret ingredient? Constant reflection, where kids don't just learn stuff, they learn how they learn. And that brings us right back to where we started. Remember that whole challenge with AI? The world our students are walking into isn't going to have a study guide for every problem. It's going to demand people who are adaptable, who are self-starters, who can solve problems on their own. Fostering agency isn't just some nice educational trend. It's the single most important thing we can do to prepare them for what's coming. So I'll leave you with this to chew on. We say all the time that we're preparing students for life. But a traditional classroom, one that's all about compliance, it doesn't look very much like real life, does it? So if we're serious about getting them ready for a world that demands agency, shouldn't their schools be a place where they get to practice it? For real? Every single day? Thanks for checking out The Explainer.